we've had this incident in Afghanistan of people who were concerned about the pedophilia that had taken place. And I would like your reaction to that circumstance, and I myself will personally follow what happens to those two military people who got in trouble on that issue.
A couple thoughts. First of all, it's very clear that the chain of command in our chain of command, NATO-led chain of command, but by the way, it's always been led by an American four-star general. So he's operating under NATO authorities, but it's an American. Today it's J.C. Campbell, an American four-star Army officer. They have been very clear consistently, the record is very clear here, that no one's expected to condone that kind of activity. And that there are legal recourses when these sorts of things happen, and that's what is expected of our soldiers. Now, so that's the rule of the law, right? Now let's talk about the practice. The practice is you have young Americans in remote places, immersed with Afghan military and police officials, many times 5, 10, or 20 Americans living among several hundred Afghans in the middle of nowhere. And you all may think you know where nowhere is, but if you've not been to Afghanistan, you don't really know where nowhere is, okay? It is remote. These are guys who may not see another American for a couple weeks. You get resupplied sort of every couple weeks. And in and amongst those Afghan Army and police, you can't escape the culture of Afghanistan. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that that we have to adopt sort of acquiescence, or we have to somehow accept that. But I do want to point out that there are parts of Afghan culture, and this is an element of Afghan culture, which are abhorrent to us, but not abhorrent to many Afghans in rural Afghanistan. Look, there are other activities as well. I mean, this is horrible, but the treatment of Afghan women is on the same scale in terms of being completely unacceptable to us. We should not accept this criminal behavior, and it's, by the way, it's criminal in Afghan criminal code to conduct oneself like this. But I do think that that this case, which is now sort of out in front of the media, right? It does demonstrate something that we should all remember. When we ask young men and women, some of which may someday be among the people who are here today in uniform, to go to places like this, we're putting them in a cultural abyss that is completely disconnected from what they grew up with, what they were trained to do, and so forth, and really puts a huge burden on them to make the kind of judgments about what behavior can they tolerate and work around, what behavior is intolerable, and exactly what to do when you're 10 or 15 Americans among 200 Afghans in the middle of nowhere. So again, I want to be very explicit. I'm not condoning it, but what I can somewhat understand is the difficult position those young soldiers and officers were placed in. And it's just, look, it's a tough mission there. You can't do that mission from a headquarters building. You have to go out there and try to do what you can on the ground. But we should be, and I guess I'll just trim my comments to this, we should be careful about the situations we put our young men and women in when the cultural differences are so sharp, they're so distinctly different, that connecting to those people is just very, very tough. So it's not only a language problem, it's not only a religious problem, there are deep cultural divides that, in my view, limit the extent to which we can adequately train, advise, and assist soldiers as different from us as the Afghans are. Doesn't make the mission impossible, but it makes it quite hard.